probably going to start. So hi everyone, and welcome to another Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube live weekly session. And in this session, that's number 64. So 64 weeks that I've been doing these live sessions, now every Sunday, 8:30 p.m. And tonight, I will be talking about 7 mistakes engineers make when they're applying for the CDI as part of the engineering qualification validation process. And certainly the last 2 mistakes are certainly fatal mistakes. So stay with me until the end. All right. I was going to send a message just to my group in Telegram. Yeah, I forgot to send a group to my Telegram group. So I'm just going to send them live. Now when you are live, that's the sort of things that it happens. Hi everyone, this is Jerson, and just to let you know that I'm just live now on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and I'm going to talk about 7 mistakes that engineers make when they're applying for the CDI. So I'll see you there. Bye bye. Yeah, thanks for that. But first, for those that don't know me, my name is Jerson Ida. I'm the founder of www.engineersinaustralia.com, a website to share content of value and relevant information for your journey towards your engineering qualification here in Australia. And if you have any questions about the validation process, please write down in the comments. I'll keep an eye here in the comments, and if you have any particular question, just let me know. And stay tuned to know more about the online free workshop, Engineering Qualification Validation. I'm going to give a little bit more details towards the end of this live session. So let's get started. As I said, tonight I'm going to talk about 7 mistakes. There are certainly plenty of more mistakes, but I selected 7 mistakes because I think that those ones are the most common ones, and they're very, very important ones as well. So mistake number 1. It's about not having complex engineering problem or a project or a task. So some engineers, when they choose an experience for their career episodes, they ended up choosing not a very complex engineering problem or project or task. And they are not really complex enough to classify them in the occupational category they are applying for. And majority of engineers that I know, they apply for the professional engineer category. And to be able for you to get a positive outcome as a professional engineer, certainly you've got to choose a complex engineering problem and obviously write a very good career episode and summary statement. So when Engineers Australia, they finalize the assessment, the outcome then is as a professional engineer. But some engineers, they don't really either choose a complex problem, or when they write, they not write in the right way. So an example would be someone applying for a professional category, a professional engineer category, and then the career episode is written in a way that demonstrates a lower level, either as an engineering technologist or as an engineering associate levels. And what do you need to do to avoid those? Well, to avoid this situation, you need to carefully read the definitions of each of the 3 categories in the booklet and make sure that your experience is at that level that you are applying for. So if you're applying for a professional engineer level, make sure that you read the definition of a professional engineer, and also it's a good idea to read the definition of engineering technologist and engineering associate. So when you write in your career episodes, you don't write at those other levels, you write at the professional engineer level. Mistake number 2, it comes from forgetting to include evidences to support your competency claims. And the MSA booklet, the Migration Skills Assessment booklet from Engineers Australia, is very clear that in your career episodes you need to include reliable and sufficient engineering evidences to support your career episodes. So what do they mean about this? The booklet says that those reliable and sufficient engineering evidences, they could be pictures, diagrams, photos, calculations, formulas, tables that you used in your experience. So to demonstrate that, one, you actually did that work, and two, that that work was done by you. So very important to include those evidences. But also in Engineers Australia, they ask you not to inundate with a lot of theoretical explanations. They're not interested about theoretical explanations that is textbook. They're interested to know the application of the theoretical knowledge that you did. So there's certainly a difference between you writing theoretical explanations, that is a textbook, and theoretical application that you did. So mistake number 3, when you attach those evidences, like as I said, diagrams and tables and pictures and photos, the mistake is when you do not reference those evidences, and that is very serious. So every time that you are attaching a table, a diagram, pictures and so on, it is very important that you do the proper referencing to demonstrate that if the attachment was not done by you, let's say that you got your attachment from a book or you got your attachment from a technical standard, then you give proper credit to whose credit is due. So that means that if it's not done by you, you need to reference that table or diagram in your career episode of who has done it. If you don't do this, Engineers Australia may interpret that you're trying to claim somebody else's job as it was yours. And if you do this, it's very likely that Engineers Australia will interpret that as a plagiarism. You're trying to mislead the assessor, and it can be considered as plagiarism. So you've got to be really careful that when you're referencing someone else's work, especially in terms of tables and diagrams, formulas, you reference where you got that attachment from and why you're using that. And mistake number 4, it could be using a translation service. Just count down. Obviously, if you have documents that are written in a language other than English, you need to engage a translator, an authorized translator, to translate that document from your language to English. But what we're talking about here, the mistake using a translation service, is that some engineers, they write their career episode in their mother language. Could write in Portuguese or Spanish or Hindi, etc. And after that, they use some sort of a translation services, either a translator or an online translator. And this can be very dangerous, as if you use a translator, for example. Because if you're using a translator, you are breaching the code of ethics, as you did not write the report yourself. But remember that in the booklet is very clear. The career episode is a result of your own work, and it's got to be written by you. If somebody else writes your report, it's a clear breach of the code of ethics. It is an unethical behavior, and it can be classified as plagiarism. And Engineers Australia now, they are banning up to 36 months. So yeah, you could say, yeah, but I wrote in my language and I just asked somebody else to translate to English. It's the same, because it's got to be written by you in English language. And if somebody else is writing, perhaps some of the mistakes that you otherwise would do, it's not going to be there. So it still can be considered as plagiarism. And if you use an online translator and copy and paste, as I've seen some people already doing, they go to Google Translate, for example, they copy they put the text in their own language, and then it gets translated, and then they copy and paste in the career episode. But I don't know if you know, but it leaves a trace that it was translated online. And it can be easily identified. Engineers Australia, they use very advanced softwares to detect plagiarism, and so be careful with that. And sometimes, and I've seen in some career episodes that when you copy and paste, it kind of leaves a gray area around the text that was pasted. So be careful with that, because Engineers Australia assessors, they really alert to this. And if you use those services, yeah, you run the risk of being caught by plagiarism. Mistake number 5, we almost arrive into the fatal 2 mistakes. But mistake number 5 is some engineer are not using enough words. So as you know, the career episodes, you kind of the minimum number of words is about 1,000, and then the maximum number of words is about 2,500 words. So, but I think that not using enough words, it's a serious mistake. And why is that? Because some engineers, they just want to finish the CDR as quick as they can. And this sometimes can be a critical mistake. So remember that the CDR is the tool for you to sell yourself as an engineer. So take advantage of the number of words to ensure that you include maximum number of evidences that can be addressed in the summary statement. So if you can write minimum of 1,000 words and maximum of 2,500 words, it means that if you write probably about 1,000 words, it's going to be a little bit shallow. You're not going to demonstrate fully all the 16 competencies. You can probably demonstrate the 16 competencies, but the evidences will be probably a little bit superficial. So, and remember, as I said, you're trying to sell yourself as a professional engineer to Engineers Australia assessor. So if you write close to the maximum words, 2,500 words, you're certainly going to be able to demonstrate the competencies not just once, but few times during your career episodes. For example, when I submitted my CDR, each of my career episodes had very close to the maximum number of words. It means about 2,500 words. So I could demonstrate my competencies not just once, but I could demonstrate my competencies several times for each of those competencies. And now mistake number 6. And mistake number 6 is one of the fatal mistakes. So if you do this, it's probably likely that Engineers Australia will reject your career episode. And not just reject, but they can impose a ban. So you can be banned for 12, 24, or 36 months. So mistake number 6 is when you engage a CDR writer. Unfortunately, there are several companies that they offer this service. And this is one of the most evident causes of rejection and banning from Engineers Australia. And although those companies, when you engage those companies, they promise you a plagiarism-free report. But getting a report that is free of plagiarism, it is like buying a fake product that you know it is fake, and that the seller promises you that there is a certificate of authenticity. So you know that that's fake, so that certificate of authenticity, it's not worth anything. So a plagiarism-free report, when somebody wrote a report for you and you don't know from where that person wrote the report, if that person copy and pasted from another report, you never know. So in the end, you are just fooling yourself. And if later on Engineers Australia catches you because of plagiarism, you will certainly regret yourself. So at the end of the day, if you follow the process, if you follow the booklet, and put the necessary effort in the CDR preparation and reports, you will make it. The trouble is that some engineers, they want an easy ride. They don't want to spend time, either because they have other priorities, not because they don't want to, but because probably they have other priorities. But it's not worthwhile. As I said before, nowadays Engineers Australia is banning for 12, 24 and 36 months if they catch you by plagiarism. So just be careful with that. So it is just too risky. Is it too risky to run the risk of being banned for up to 36 months? And don't forget that the cost, let's say that you get a negative outcome from Engineers Australia saying that they identified your report as being plagiarized. And there are some avenues. You can lodge an informal review, and then if that informal review is not successful, you can lodge a formal appeal. But just remember that those review processes, one, they cost they cost money, and two, it takes a lot of time. Just so you know, I checked today in Engineers Australia website, the informal review, that's for whatever reason. Let's say that you apply for your CDR application and you get an outcome that you're not happy with. So you can lodge an informal review. Currently, the cost of this informal review is 285 Australian dollars plus GST. So if you are in Australia, you gotta pay 10% GST. If you're applying offshore and not in Australia, then you don't need to pay GST. But it's $285. And if after that informal review, the result is still, you're not happy with the result of the review, and this review is done by a panel of reviewers, and if you're not happy with that, you can apply for a formal appeal. A formal appeal is done by an independent assessor, but it's going to cost you $540 Australian dollars plus GST if you are in Australia. So that means that you already spent $285 for the informal review, plus you're going to spend another $540. So what's the count of that? Is $825. $825 plus GST, it's almost $900. So you pay $900 for the review process, and also you already paid, I don't know how much those companies they charge you, but you're going to be wasting your money when you pay those companies to write on your behalf, because Engineers Australia is very likely that they're going to catch you as plagiarism. So, and then the time. The revision process or the informal review process, I checked today also in the Engineers Australia website, and they're saying that currently it's taking an average of 8 weeks for them to finalize an informal review. And because of COVID and everything else, it may take even longer. And then again, if you're not happy with the informal review result, you can apply for a formal appeal. And on the Engineers Australia website, the formal appeal, it says that that can take up to or around 9 months. So imagine if you're here, and depending on the validation process to apply for a visa or something else, or to get a job or to confirm a job, it can take up to 9 months for the formal appeal. And the result of the formal appeal is definite. So it's final. There's no other way. Perhaps you can go to High Court or whatever in the justice system. But within Engineers Australia, the administrative process, the formal appeal is the final outcome of that review. So certainly it's not worthwhile. As I keep saying, and since I started this project last year, to do the CDR application is a simple process. It's a step-by-step process. It's everything in the Engineers Australia booklet. Again, the process is simple. I didn't say that it's easy. Unfortunately, the process is simple, but it can become difficult. And why it can become difficult? It can become difficult because if you have to write 3 career episodes, 2,500 words each, for example. So that's already 7,500 words. Your summary statement will also be around probably the 2,000 words. So we're talking about almost 10,000 words. And then the CPD is also a few words. So you will be writing about 10,000 words. So there's a lot of words to write. It's not just the writing, it's about matching the competencies and choosing the experiences and everything else. So the process is simple. There's a step-by-step. The booklet is very clear with the steps, but then to translate all your experience into the reports, that's the issue. But although it's difficult, it does not worth the risk to be caught by plagiarism. So that is one of the reasons why I put together my mentoring program, where I teach people to write so they don't need to ask somebody else to write. So I explain about the competencies, I explain about important concepts, and then my students, when they finish my mentoring program, they understand and they learn everything about what they need to do, so they can do everything by themselves, and they can write everything by themselves without relying on other companies to write on their behalf. And also because I've seen already many people that came to me because Engineers Australia caught them as plagiarism, and they were asking me help to fix, and I said sorry, but I don't do this. And I didn't say that they shouldn't really be done that. I'm not here to give lessons to anyone. People are already adults, they can make their decisions, and they can then cope with the consequences. So mistake number 7, and this is a very important point, and it is also one of the most common causes of rejection of your career episode. And the mistake is your experience against the ANZ SEO occupation definition. So although this is probably is not the most serious mistake, I consider that the plagiarism is the most serious mistake. But this mistake, which is not aligning the experience with the ANZ SEO occupation definition, it is one of the most common mistakes and reason for rejection. Why do I say that? I say that because I had already several engineers that came to me saying that Engineers Australia gave them feedback that their career episodes were not good. The experiences that they chose, they did not match with the ANZ SEO definition. Therefore, it was not considered to be a professional engineer classification. So if you choose an experience that does not match with the ANZ SEO occupation definition that you are applying for, then it is very likely that Engineers Australia will reject your career episode. And you will need to rewrite or maybe change. Usually they ask you to rewrite your career episode. And it's not just the career episode, because you're having to change or rewrite your career episode, you also got to rewrite your summary statement. And why you have to rewrite your summary statement? Because if you're rewriting your career episode, you need to rewrite your summary statement to match and to reflect the new career episode that you are writing. So, and why is that? Why does that happen? Well, that happens because and I consider obviously myself, because I'm also an overseas educated engineer, and in Brazil, which is my country of origin, and I'm a civil engineer. Civil engineers back in Brazil, they do a lot of things. So they do building, they do infrastructure, they do water, they do sewage. They even do, well, we even do electrical work because we can, low voltage electrical work. As civil engineers, we can design electrical work, we can deliver electrical work, we can do electrical installations up to the low voltage. So, but here in Australia it's different. The definition of engineers, they are in the ANZ SEO definition, occupation definition. So really, really important. If you don't match your experience with that definition, you run serious risks of your career episodes to be rejected. And some engineers, due to the fact that they can't really access old records or they don't have that experience, they ended up giving up. Let's say that they receive a feedback from Engineers Australia that their career episode is not good, and because they don't have records, they cannot access records from the university, or they don't have copies of the report that they did when they worked back in their country, they find themselves without options, because the only options that they had is about the work that they did, which is not potentially not matching with the ANZ SEO occupation definition. So, and because Engineers Australia already rejected their career episodes and they can't find a suitable experience, many engineers, they simply give up and they try another pathway, especially to get a visa or something. But really important, go to the ANZ SEO website, just Google that. If you Google ANZ SEO engineering, it will open up the website from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, and then you can search for your type of engineering. Usually there is the civil, chemical, mechanical, and there is a category called other professionals, other engineering professionals, that there are a few other categories there as well. Have a good read of the definition and make sure that you match your experience together with that competency. And I'm going to talk about a little bit of my free workshop. My free workshop is called Engineering Qualification Validation here in Australia. And as I said, it's free. So to register, those one in Instagram, you can go to my bio. There is a link there, linktree/Gerson. When you click on that link, there will open it will open a series of buttons. The first one there is the one that you can register for the free workshop. And those ones in Facebook and YouTube, I will put in the comments. It's actually in the video description as well, but I put in the comments so you can access that and register to the free workshop. When it's going to happen? I'm planning to do, I don't have a confirmed date, but I'm planning to do sometime in October. So usually it's 1 week of content. So there's a lot of time that I need to invest. So, but I think it's going to be probably the first or the second week of October. And very important when you do your registration, and if you already registered to my other workshops, and if you are not getting my emails, I send at least one email every week, at least the emails about the live sessions. So if you're not getting my emails, it is probably because the emails are going to the junk mail. And if they're going to the junk mail, you'll never get my emails. So it's always a good idea to check your junk mailbox and see if my emails are there. And if they are there, what you need to do, you need to create a new contact and put my name, Gerson, and my email. admin@engineersinaustralia.com, and save as favorites. So when my email comes to your inbox, it's not going to the junk mail, it's going to the inbox. So once I confirm the dates, I will send an email with the calendar of events. So usually the workshop, we have live sessions, and then I also send 3 workshop videos with a lot of content, and I usually do a couple of webinars as well. So it's a full week of event, and 100% online, 100% free as well. Alright, so these were the 7 mistakes that I would like to share with you guys, that I see happening, and unfortunately I see happening a lot. There's certainly a lot more, and I'm probably going to talk more about those mistakes during the free workshop, because today it's already half an hour and I don't have to go through all of them. But if you avoid making those mistakes, you're already saving yourself a lot of time. I'll probably just go quickly through the 7 mistakes. So the first mistake that I saw was if you do not choose complex engineering problem, projects, or tasks. Mistake number 2, I said that when you forget to include sufficient and reliable evidences to support your competency claims, obviously engineering evidences. Mistake number 3, when you add those evidences, you forget to reference those evidences, especially if they are evidences that are not done by you. Mistake number 4, when you use some sort of a translation service to translate your career episode. So that's certainly a mistake. Mistake number 5, not using enough words. So if you use just few words, minimum words, you may not be able to competently address all the 16 competencies. Mistake number 6, and this is one of the fatal mistakes, if you engage a CDR writer, if you engage somebody to write on your behalf. If you engage somebody to write on your behalf, you certainly know the risks, because there's a big red box in the booklet, so you're taking at your own risk. And mistake number 7, choosing an experience that does not match with the ANZ SEO occupation definition. So these are the 7 mistakes that I classify as being very critical, and certainly in my online mentoring program, Validation Formula, I cover all of these mistakes and many other mistakes with my students, so I make sure that they don't make those mistakes. So when they're writing their reports, they either also not making that mistakes, and they're writing in the right way just by themselves. So I'm just going to check if I've got any particular question. If you have any question, you can put in the comments. If you don't have any questions, I will probably finish for tonight. If you have any suggestion for next week live, again, next week is going to be Sunday, 8:30 p.m. Brisbane time. If you are in Brazil, it's going to be 7:30 a.m. And I would like to thank the audience that is watching from Brazil. If you have any suggestion, put in the comments, and I will endeavor to cover next week. Thank you very much for your participation, and I'll see you again next Sunday here on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at 8:30 p.m. Brisbane time. Thank you very much. Bye.